let's just start chatting, I guess. So there's been a couple rounds of testing with community feedback. It's pretty small team on both sides. It's been a move fast and break things kind of approach for a lot of it. But by the time we're being brought into as community whatevers to give feedback, a lot of the big stuff has already been decided, right? So we're not coming in and talking about like, what should the blitzes be? Blitzes being, of course, like the brain burst equivalent. That's already been all set out long before we have anything to do with this process. In the Darktide code, you can see evidence of having 3 different careers per archetype for some time now, right? But rather than have 3 different careers, they decided to do this tree where they're essentially taking the 3 careers that were in some part of development, not finalized, and pushing them into a tree so you can do mix and match, right? So that was probably like the big idea. And then, of course, you're going to have the things that would have been talents normally, right? The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options, and put these on the tree, interspersing with some minor nodes, so you can kind of spend points to get bits and pieces of each of them. The different archetypes, so veteran, psyker, etc., have different networking, different connectivity. I'm sure somebody will come up with a better word for this. In other words, some of them are more flexible to get around than others. So, for example, at the beginning of the Psyker tree, these are all toughness replen at various types. And since they're all right at the top of the tree, you can get any number of these easily. These are always going to be available to you, right? This node right here turns out to be very powerful, and it's very easy to get. So anybody can, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, you can splash something like this very cheaply, right? Whereas some things deeper in the tree are harder to get to. So here are our 3 blitzes. Brain Burst, Smite, which is basically just Chain Lightning, CC, and Assails, I guess is what they're called now. They changed the name of everything a million times, so I don't know the name of anything anymore. These are just murderizer of trash and medium elites. That's what these are. They're murderizers. They're insane. So this node right here is 5% cooldown for you on elite and specialist kill. If you want this, you can't get this, and vice versa. And this is a pretty good node, right? So there is some trade-off you have to choose. Sometimes it just costs you extra points to pick up where there's flexibility, and when there's less flexibility, there's an either-or. And that's just a natural outcome of having trees. There's some branching in here, but these are the auras. So the blitz, the aura, the ability, keystone are all pick one, right? Which means you can't pick up this aura, which is the 10% elite and specialist. Is it 10%? Okay. And this ability over here, which is like the finesse damage amp one. So there's choices to be made in here. The middle of the Psyker tree is rather inflexible in this way. But once you take an ability, the flexibility really comes back out, right? So even if you start here or here, either of these abilities, it's very easy to go to this keystone. But even if you pick this one, even though this looks like it's back up, it's actually flat here. So the keystone ability and keystone and ability pairs are completely flexible, right? So the only lock-ins really are these two are locked behind these 2 blitzes. These 2 are locked behind these 2 blitzes. And likewise, this is only locked behind this guy, but no one will ever take this. This is complete trashed here. And this guy is locked behind this aura, but this is complete trashed here too. So it doesn't matter. Any questions so far? Okay. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Brain Burst. It is very cheap to pick up the 75% faster charge rate on Brain Burst. It's reasonably good, but it's misleading. It is 75% charge rate, not 75% cast time. About a second of the cast time of Brain Burst is fixed cast time after the charging, and this doesn't affect that portion. So it isn't as big as it looks. It's never been. This is the old 10% chance of randomly hitting. This is pretty much trash tier. Like, this is really low tier. And this is, Brain Burst is pretty strong. Its damage has been upped a number of times. It hits a ton of breakpoints. Like, if you like Brain Burst, it's extremely cheap to pick it up. It networks through the best passive on this row. This is the best passive on this row by far. And again, it's very cheap to pick this up, and it's very cheap to pick up sources of cooldown reduction. Here's our source of cooldown reduction on kill. Here's a 10% flat cooldown for the whole team. And then this keystone is all about cooldown, which we'll talk about later. So it's pretty easy to power up your Brain Burst, and the Brain Burst hits some pretty nice breakpoints. So you can definitely hit Brain Burst. I think it's boring. I don't really love it, but it's there. It's pretty darn strong. Chain Lightning was iterated through many, many, many times while we were testing, and it landed in a place that's not very strong, in my opinion. But it has potential. I don't know what the iteration is eventually. This is a very fluid situation. I mean, there's literally hundreds of dials for them to turn per archetype, right? And then, of course, there's all the enemy dials to think about, too. So there's so much moving. It's really hard to say where anything's going to land long term. We can only talk about really what you're going to see this week and put the big asterisk next to it, like, where's it going to go? Who's to say? Right now, Chain Lightning's pretty blah. It is a controlling surge. It takes a lot of peril, and it stuns a couple things. It doesn't scale hugely with difficulty because it doesn't remove threats permanently. It just stuns them, and it stuns you basically to cast it. And it doesn't scale on AoE, it scales on number of targets. So if the number of enemies quadruple, you're stunning, a quarter of it, as whatever. It goes inversely. The power is inversely proportional to the number of the density. So it doesn't scale hugely with difficulty. So not a huge fan. This is insane and quite possibly overtuned right now. So why don't we play with Assail? These nodes scale crits. These are two just basic pump up for this blitz. This is more piercing. They replen faster. These have an MO system. Both of these are terrible. This is the best aura in my opinion in almost all circumstances. But this is good too, depending on the build. So it doesn't really matter what you take here. If you want to go for cooldown, take this. This is okay. Let's get down to this row. There is some iteration of Shield. There is not nearly enough iteration of Scryer's Gaze, in my opinion. Scryer's Gaze, in its current implementation, doesn't really get there for many builds. The only way to save yourself from suicide is Shout. Wall. The dome version is pretty reasonable. The straight wall is a little undertuned right now. So for this week, a caveat on balance and such, there's a huge difference between what's playable and what's fun and what's like the top couple outliers in strength. And of course, balance is always around what are the top things, right? So the generic good stuff build goes this way. If you're going to focus on these guys, this keystone's the most interesting of the three. So let's talk about these keystones briefly. This is all the souls stuff from the current implementation of Psyker, right? You get stacks by killing things, by killing elites or specials, or by killing random things, or by killing random things that have a soul blaze stack on them. By the way, this works whether or not you're the one who kills it. So this is, if you have warp fire, this one's always much better. You get up to 6 stacks as per usual, and every time you ult, you get a huge amount of cooldown, which is nice, and you get a little bit of damage scaling when you have it. You can also get a little toughness regen, or you can get some peril reduction. So this is supposed to be kind of the generic caster good stuff, and it is pretty good, but really, mostly what it's about is getting stacks and then ulting to get stacks again. So this is mostly for a specialized build, where you take all of this cooldown reduction good stuff, and take the new Ascendant Blaze. This is S tier. This is super S tier right now. It's 6 stacks of Soul Blaze that scales with your peril, not the number of soul stacks that you have. So it's very easy to get to 100% peril, ult, ult with a bunch of cooldown from these, from this, and then ult again and get 6 to 12 stacks, and then everything's burning to death. And then this over here is S tier, as it's written right now, which is 4 stacks of Soul Blaze to nearby enemies every time a specialist or an elite dies that you kill, right? So it's very easy to melt like massive hordes with this S tier option and this S tier option. With regard to CD reduction nodes across the board, most of the CD, this is like the only cooldown option that's team-wide. Everything else is for individual skill, or individual players. So, anyways, the Blaze Soulfire stuff is very good, and it's super splashable. You don't have to all in on it by getting all of this, and this. You can just get this, and since you're basically always going to want Shout until significant balance changes happen, you're always coming here anyways, and this is 2 points for amazingness, right? Anyways, on this hand tree, then since you can always get these things, Psyker really has 2 spots where he gets to like decide where to go. He gets to pick a keystone, and he gets to pick which of the stuff over here he splashes. I guess that's the biggest stuff. I guess you also, and that's not true. The other big decision is, do you go for this guy or do you go for this guy? Do you go for the extra bit of cooldown reduction or do you go for the assails? This is amazing at 50% kill per warp kill. That's insane. This is basically free. You'll basically always take this. Down here, there's some choices to make. For assails, it's high finesse, and these can crit. This is the only blitz that can crit. This is like the finesse damage amp keystone. It gives you a lot of good stuff. It randomly marks an enemy that's like a roamer type. So like bruisers, that gunners, shotgunners, that kind of thing. When you kill it, you get a stack. Each stack gives you damage, weak spot damage, and crit damage. Yeah, those all things they all stack. And it gives you 20% move speed for 2.5 seconds, which is pretty sweet. This guy makes it so the stacks last 30 seconds, which is helpful because sometimes the stacking is a little crappy right now. It needs more iteration, in my opinion. Never take this, like unless you absolutely have a point you need to dump it somewhere. And only take this if you're also really using finesse stuff. So this is a build that's really going to power up those throwing knives, the assails, right? So you get 6 points left to play with. You can do this splash. And if you're taking that splash, you should always take this splash, which gives us 3 things, right? And then this is very good. 30% is really good. 20% damage from all sources is really good. This is basically an auto take. You will always take this. This is good in every build, and it's very easy to get to. And now it leaves us with 2 points. So you're like, oh, what do I do? I could pick up a little bit of toughness from this minor node. This makes critical hits count as dodging. So since you're already stacking a bit of crit stuff, because of this guy right here, landing 5 hits guarantees your next range hit is a crit. You're going to want to take this guy. Then this is actually going to proc pretty frequently, and now you're down to 1 point, and you're like, what do I do? Well, you could take this guy, which is a little bit of toughness regeneration if you need it. That's pretty free. You can get a little bit of base range damage. You get a little bit of extra toughness right here. You got a lot of choices for like this last little bit to optimize your build for you. Alternatively, you can not do the warp fire splash, which is not essential, especially if you're not playing the hardest stuff. And you've got massive amounts of killing power anyways, and that opens up 4 points to do other things. That means you can come down here and pick up the quell speed, which is quite good, and still have a point left for something like range damage. On the weapon side, if you're going this way, Dueling Sword 4 has been buffed through the freaking roof. It's insane. Dueling 4 is pretty much a no-brainer. And Void Strike is absolutely nutty, and we'll talk about Void Strike in a second. So, shards. They have 10 stacks. Sorry, my HUD is weird compared to everybody else's. They have 10 stacks. They refresh pretty quickly here. Boom, it's back. When you cast, it just does random things. But when you look at something, it goes to the thing you're looking at. So I'm going to make it go from Rager to Rager like this. Boom, boom. Right? That's 500 damage for a left click. Now I got 5 headshots. Do you see my little buff? I got 5 stacks. That is a guaranteed crit. Let's see how much damage that does. That's insane. And that's before any of my finesse keystone stacks, because these don't work. This does not work inside the Psychonium. So there's a huge amount of damage that's just missing right now. Absolutely missing. So let's load up a brief true solo, and I'll just show off a little bit of this build. Is Wildfire Node synergistic with the Destiny? Stacks of anything kills the mob because Warp Fire proc. Not really. Wildfire is pretty much red C tier. Like, it's basically not worth picking, unless maybe you're picking the cooldown one, and then you want as many sources of Warp Fire as possible to make sure that you get a proc. So let's just throw some assails and see what happens. So it's not very good into him, but it's good into everything else here. Oh, sorry. Let me shut off whatever the heck that is. We have to restart. We have to restart. That's no big deal. Disable screen effects, health bars, debuff indicator. That's annoying. Hold on one sec. I gotta shut that mod off. Yeah, Bolt Staff is out of this world. I'll talk about it briefly. It's got like this crazy crit into double shot engine that is just freaking bonkers. And Dueling Sword's insane too. So the build I'm on right now is like pretty meta. Though presumably there'll be other stuff that's really, really good. We just haven't seen it yet. Disable screen effects. Sorry. Oh my god, where the hell was the name of this thing again? Hub hotkeys. Debuff indicator. There we go. Alright. Just trying to get that junk off your screen for you guys. So again, we don't have our stacks yet, and we got Reapers in the way. Okay. So let's look at Void Staff. Yep, that one-shotted. Yep, that one-shotted. By the way, that was a Reaper and a Bulwark. Let's get some assails. There is technically a right click on assail. It's really only useful for long, super distant snipers, in my opinion, right now. Boop. So that's the mark. Everyone saw the mark? And that gave me a 20% move speed buff. Right now I have 15 stacks. Let's see what 15 stacks does with Void Strike to this guy. That was a non-headshot, non-crit. There you go. 2,000 damage. That might need to be reined in a little bit. Predicted. He comes here. He did. Here, let's use some assails here. You don't have to worry on Void Strike anymore about vent canceling. They fixed that. Yes, I did just one-shot him. Let's see if we can one-shot him. So yeah. It's an insane amount of damage. Let's see a horde. Here. I mean, Void Strike wants to see a long straight, right? But let's start by using some assails. Pretty good, but now I'm out. So clearly dueling sword. Is quite good. And here. Let's go down here, get a little space, and see what happens if I just try to void. So for those who don't know, this type of horde is affected by suppression, not the other one. And Void Strike does way too much suppression for whatever reason that probably doesn't need to be there anymore. So it just eats this type of horde for breakfast. It doesn't even have to try. But it's quite good into the other kind too. Let's see if it's good into him. Yes, it is. It's not that good into monstrosities. I would say boss damage remains Psyker's biggest Achilles heel. I mean, obviously, as opposed his glass cannon too. That's a big one too. So his biggest boss damage sources are probably Dueling 4, Bleed Knife, and Void Strike crit build. Fortunately, everybody else got insane boss damage, so you can make them do it. Yeah, that just one-shot a Bulwark. So what the hell's going on? Why is this Void Strike staff absolutely bonkering on everything? First of all, it got massive buffs. It's never been that hard to headshot with it. But that's only a fraction of the insanity that's happening right now. And of course, all of this is fluid, right? But like, this is pretty bonkers. So Surge on crit shoots 2 shots. This is 5 weak spot shots, gives you a free crit. The Surge Strike, the Surge second shot, can proc that passive and keep getting more stacks. So it's like an engine. It's like a Magic the Gathering style engine. It's a boss trigger. Let's see if we get it. Nope. Specials, though. So I think the other thing you should notice is it's kind of like Bolt Staff. If Bolt Staff also had like Fireball Staff level control-ish. Trauma got some big buffs too. It doesn't have as much direct synergy with any of the keystones, but it's in a very good place. Purg is solid, but not going to set the world on fire. At least that's how I see it. And I'm not a big fan of what they did with Surge, but I also wasn't a big fan of where it started from, so I don't know. Oh, that's another little funny thing about Void. If you get hit, it still releases it for whatever reason. This has always been true, it just didn't matter. Oh, you know what? There is one other big source. Vrax. Vrax 7 plus finesse build has got good boss damage. See? So that's where the assails come in. They'll kill your special for you. Boop. Okay, let's switch to using our dueling sword a little more. Oh, of course. Maybe not. Too lazy. Let's see if we can get this to open the bulwark for us. No, unlucky. Anyways, you guys get the idea, right? Shredder is back to, like, really fair. Because a lot of them really stand out blessings got brought back to reality. So it's fine as a sidearm that you would use to efficiently and safely while on the run kill specials. But Las Pistol is likely to be the kind of default, everybody takes it. And this is all short term, right? All this is hugely fluid. One more thing on this, so let's get one more proc on this so you can see. So I got another proc. I want to watch something. Watch. Ready? I'm going to shoot my surge proc. See if I can make this obvious. Do you see what I did? The first shot, and then I drag the second shot like this. So the surge shot does not fire instantly. It fires slightly afterwards. So you can actually get 2 full shots to land exactly where you want if you time it well. So if you wanted to invest time getting really good at Void Strike, I think it would pay off hugely. And even if it gets brought back towards reality a little bit, it's still going to be extremely good. Like, it's so high right now that a couple little touch-ups aren't going to kill it. Is that snow? Yeah, see you in 2 days, man. All right, let's look at a slightly different build. You expect to see a balance patch within a week. There is definitely work, right? Like, anytime a major patch comes out, it is a snapshot in time of an evolving process. It's just going to be a question of how many other things need to go into the pipeline and how gummed up the pipeline is. So yes, you can certainly expect to see large balance patches in some future. That's not too far away. Okay, so let's edit the build a little bit and let's focus more on trauma. So for trauma, you absolutely can go for assails, but I don't usually. I usually go left-hand side. My build for trauma usually looks a lot more like this. I go as much crit as possible to pick up this free 30% damage, right? Or whatever, 15% damage right here. And this occasionally proccing move speed buff, which I like a lot. This is really good. I splash the warp fire package, which is these 2 points here and this point here, because it's just good stuff. It's not hugely important for trauma, because trauma is really good at Horde anyways, and mixed elites anyway. But there's 3 points left, and it's not really obvious what else to do. I'd love to pick up this 4% cooldown aura, as opposed to the 10% cooldown, but I can't pick this up and come back for Shout, and there's no way in hell I'm taking either of these ults in their current form over Shout in any build, unless I'm memeing. And then down here, I don't really need Keystone kills grant 2 additional stacks because I'm not doing very many finesse kills, many headshot kills. I'm using trauma like crazy. So you might be asking yourself something like, Jay, why the heck are you taking this when so much of the value is in crit damage and weak spot damage? That doesn't seem to make a huge amount of sense. Well, first of all, it's still just 15% damage, and the 2% crit damage, so 30% crit damage, is still pretty reasonable on trauma. Second of all, it procs 20% move speed and 10% toughness on kill, which helps with the scramble, which helps with the clutch. And what is it competing with? It's competing with this, which is basically just a ton of cooldown reduction. That's what this is. It's just a ton of cooldown reduction, which is fine. But since I'm bringing trauma, the warp fire package is somewhat overlapping with the trauma spam package. So I didn't need this, and I can get this for way fewer points. But I have the points. I could get this. I've just found this blah, blah, blah. Plus, I like playing Knife, and I like playing Go Fast. And that's kind of fun, because you can get 20% move speed here and an occasional 15% here. Both of those are up some of the time. Also, there's a 5% move speed node right here and a 5% crit node right here. So anyways, that's how I've been playing trauma. Little aggress. Okay. Let's back up already. I mostly just use my ult as a CC. Nice little move speed proc there to reposition. The Destiny thing can't track on these guys, right? Only on roamers. And not on Ogryns either. And not on specials. See, it got back there. So I could try to pick it off. Yep, there you go. That got the stack. So almost 1200 damage on the crit. Completely respectable. I mean, it's not Void Strike level. But it's plenty of damage with huge control. So it competes just fine, despite having slightly less synergy. Oh, man. So this is a style. It's extremely trauma heavy. Oh, come on. We can wait out the first horde, but you guys know what trauma spam into horde looks like. So we just triggered some guns. Let's let that horde come. See what it looks like. Show you another build. This is another real big reason to bring trauma. It is extremely good into mixed elites. It is a unique thing that Psyker contributes to the team. I would say Ogryn's even better at it, but Ogryn's amazing at everything right now. Let's put a little warp fire on these guys and see if we can get one more stack. So if you have outstanding positioning, you are very safe. Where does this fall down? It doesn't have the best and most efficient answer into specials, and it doesn't have a very efficient answer into bosses. It can be a little sus into both. And when you have a situation like this, you so wish you had assails, whatever they're called now. Let's wall them a little bit. Notice my stacks dropped off during horde. Very common limitation of it. They tend to drop off during horde and bosses. It also takes an unnecessary amount of micro sometimes, but a lot less so when you're playing with teams, obviously. Let's see if we can pick these guys. Sniper. Alright, I'll clear this scene out. And then I'll talk about some of the blessings changes that are relevant here. And some of the overall mechanics changes. Alright, that's probably good enough. Ginger asks, what balance changes do they do to enemies and hordes since we got all these hero buffs? There'll be an enumerated list, I'm sure, with the major patch. There were a number of changes and a number of proposed changes. I don't know which is in and which is not, so I don't want to speak beyond I don't want to speak beyond my brief, if you know what I mean. If your question is overall there a power creep, so in other words, the players have gotten stronger relative to the game has gotten harder, I would say the answer to that is yes. I would say that the game was already too easy. The players were already too strong versus the available difficulty level. And I don't know how large that's really changed. Like, for example, if I take 4 players of good skill into the highest available maelstroms right now, there's not enough to do for everybody. We basically end up competing to interact, right? And it's the same in live as it is with where we are in what's coming out this week. 3 is enough. If you have 3 players, you can get stressed. 2 players, you have to play pretty darn well, and it can still go horribly wrong really, really fast. And I would say that's true on live, mostly. So there's a bit of power creep, but I don't know if it's insane. And also, the very, 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 very strongest stuff in live, I would say a lot of stuff that wasn't the very, very strongest in live got brought up considerably, and more options were added to the table, whereas the stuff that was already extremely good did not get better for the most part. I don't think that's the case for Ogryn. I think Ogryn was already insanely good, and he just got amazing options like all over the board. Zealot's still incredibly strong. Psyker's very good, but very fragile. Veteran, I think if you want to play pew-pew distant poke veteran, he's in a very good place. If you want to play more mid-rangey mixed veteran, I think it's more of a mixed bag. So blessings got changed tremendously. And one of the biggest ways they got changed is on-chained blank blessings got an incredible change. Rather than you have to literally keep doing the same action over and over and over again, or the buff drops instantly. It's now, when you do the chained action of the appropriate type, the buff gets added, the stacks get refreshed, whatever. But if you do a different action, they don't fall off. For example, Head Taker, let's see, where's a good example? Do I have Head Taker on anything here? Limb Splitter. No, Limb Splitter is cool, but let's not talk about Limb Splitter. Where's Head Taker? Brutal Momentum, Shred. Oh, Shred. Shred's a good example. Shred used to be, you literally have to keep attacking in this over and over and over again, and if you ever do another action like block or miss, you drop the stacks. Now Shred is, if you ever miss, you drop the stacks, but you can block. You can swap these sorts of things. It's incredibly better. So stabs feel so much better because Warp Flurry, I can cast, get my stacks like this, swap, use my knife to reposition, pull out my blitz and head pop, blah, 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 and then I can come back and not drop the stack. So our blessings been added. Some of them have been changed so much that they're essentially new blessings. But for the most part, there's just been a large systematic effort to rework them to make all of them interesting. It's an ongoing effort that you guys will see a snapshot of this week, if that makes sense. It's an ongoing effort, but you're seeing a moment in time of a process in flux. Yeah, Bruiser HP up, Mauler. There's like a lot of little buffs across the board to various things, but on average, I would say there's a bit of a power creep, which is to be expected. Like some of the buffs on the blessings are quite large, taking things that used to be pretty to making them pretty reasonable. For example, Riposte is now 20% crit chance on a successful dodge, and there's a lot of little things that were added to the game or changed to the game, like mutants used to not proc on dodge stuff, but now they do. So there are a lot of little things that are much better than they used to. You can dodge slide under a pouncing dog now, which is just so cool. Let's see if I can replicate this. And this even works on... But if I just duck, I'll get owned. So there's a lot of stuff that's just more consistent than it used to be, like tons of little changes like this. If you guys have specific questions, I'll keep interrupting myself to talk about those things. Otherwise, I'm going to move on. I'll talk a little bit about where I think Surge is and what's a good play for Surge. Let's add a new build. Let's change this up a little bit. Surge is still good with this guy, with the Disrupt Destiny. You could easily run a Surge build around Warp Siphon on your cooldown nodes and use your Ascendant Blaze to be your major stack source. Surge is now a single target nuker. Think of it as Brain Burst, but way, 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 way faster and a bit shorter range. So you can use your Surge to kill. That procs your Perilous Combustion, which puts some stacks on things. And then you can Shout to put some more stacks on things. And you'll quickly get your cooldown back from things dying with Soul Blaze on them, or from nuking individual elites, because this gives you a stack on elite or special. So you can do a Warp Fire Shout-centric build with lots of cooldown reduction with Surge. That's a completely reasonable build. I want to point out one more really strong bit of synergy, which I haven't discussed so far. So let's back away from... Where am I? Which build am I on? Void. So let's change this up a little bit. And let's look at this guy, Empowered Psionics, which is supposed to kind of power up your Blitz slot. Right now, it's not worth it for Smite, because I think Smite's just bad, kind of in a bad place in general. And for Brain Rupture, it's pretty cool. It's got 100% peril cost reduction. So you can literally right-click, full charge your Brain Burst, and just sit and wait for the right target at exactly the right time. And it's really easy to get stacks because you can pick up this little node right here, which does Empowered Psionics on Elite Kill, right? So it's pretty easy to get stacks. And this guy makes it so you can have up to 3 stacks. So this is pretty good with Brain Burst. But it's insane with Assails. With Assails, they get a 50% base damage increase, which is like multiplicative with everything, as far as I understand. Every time you cast, it's 15% coherency, toughness for everybody. You spam these things like crazy. You saw how fast they are. They don't consume any charges, and they're literally free. So it's very easy to get the stacks. They absolutely murder. They give you back your toughness bar insanely fast. Your whole team, their toughness bar, really fast. Like, this is really, really, really strong. And it's really hard, not hard to, even if you wanted to, take this, splash, splash, splash. It's just not quite as good because you don't have the cooldown reduction right here. But it's completely reasonable. I wouldn't, though. I'd probably try to take those 3 points and go 1, 2, 3, and we need to steal 1 more point for this guy. You probably can steal this one because you're going to be getting so many casts for free from Empowered Psionics that you probably don't need the cooldown because you really want this guaranteed free crit. You could easily steal 3 points from here if you wanted to and go 1, 2, 3, or leave the 3 points on here so that you're, especially if you're using a staff, so you have a little bit better venting. So it's completely reasonable to go one way or the other, and different people could play it different ways, right? Like, I don't think there's a strong, obvious winner here. But let's just take a quick look at how good Empowered Psionics is. And it's absolute best case, where there's like 1 million of the types of things that it kills, and a good chunk of them are elites, because elites proc and give you a free proc every time. It's good. Oh, I killed everything? Stand by. I'm still on Psyker. I'm going slow. Limb Splitter is 60% power. However, it's not cheesable. You can't QQ cancel it anymore because it uses the same chained action thing. So you literally have to wait for the chained action to enter up. So if you're really only swinging your ranged melee weapon once every 5-10 seconds and you only need 1 or 2 swings, it's quite interesting. But there are many cases that that's the case, but I think that's okay. I don't think it needs to be something that's always good. Okay. Let's see if I remember to bring trauma. Oh, I didn't. I meant to bring trauma as my backup. I like to bring trauma as my backup for this. Because it's one Achilles heel. Oh, I promised to talk about why warp is so... Oh, yeah, I told you. I did. Okay. Okay, now that he's dead. I've still got one more stack, so I can cast. I like to bring trauma as my backup here, not void. Let me fix that. That's my favorite. Yes, Void Strike goes right through. With a shield. It's bonkers. That's a stack. I think you probably saw the VFX on the edge. It's got a nice VFX when you get a stack. Here, let's waste some stacks on this. Completely unnecessary, but let's just see. So you can quickly, easily swap. Oh no, I took some hits. Let's get my toughness back. Oh, all my toughness is back. 100%. 20% to 100% in 2 casts. And the swap times are extremely generous by design. Here, we've almost got a double. Let's go ahead and let these guys stack up. Here, let's just intentionally cast this a little bit. Let's get my stuff up. Let's see how much that does. Most of the horde. So you can see how the assails give you, in the dueling sword, are pretty flexible damage package. / insane. Okay, the biggest difficulty with the sails is you have to be super cognizant that if you have them in the air, that you don't turn towards, you don't aim it at a burster as it's coming from you, because it'll loop back around and hit the burster in the back and knock him into you. And it's like the most tilting freaking thing in the world. And I guarantee you could troll the hell out of your teammates with it. It's one of the better new troll techniques. It's not the best one. I'll show you the best one momentarily. But here, let me see if I can demonstrate. So another cool thing about this, oh, not that, is they spent a ton of time iterating through this assail to make it cool. And one of the things is, like, true flight volley and Vermintide follows a trajectory like this. Ready? Smooth, smooth, smooth. In this one, it tries to hit ahead and jump, jump, jump like this. You see it? And I can drag it like this. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. And you see how it pops up afterwards to hit heads more consistently? It's really nice. Okay. I think that's all I have to say. Gunpsyker is quite solid. This guy is arguable with Gunpsyker, especially with Vrax. So you can take this with this and like go all finesse. Vrax is a pretty flexible damage. You might even be able to convince yourself that Revolver is playable. And it's, I mean, again, there's a huge gap between playable and optimal. And you do not need to play anywhere close to optimal to win any game in Darktide. It's just not true. You don't have to, right? It's like saying, like, in League, do you have to play the most meta hero? No, not even close. And not even all the way up to the highest bracket does it matter all that much. And I'd say that's probably the case here too. Wall's pretty cool. I really want to like it. It needs another iteration or two of power, but it's not that far away. The left-hand one's my favorite because it 100% chance of stunning specialist, and it blocks things like flame and nades, though the flame will still go under it, but it'll block the actual projectile of flame. So this really is nice at shutting down entrances and helping you, like, stabilize the front line versus special pressure. So this is going to be super, super pickable when it gets buffed just a little bit. And I'll probably be my favorite. My favorite will probably be Stun Wall, the straight wall with trauma. going left-hand side to save a couple points and getting the extra cooldown. That'll probably be my default into this keystone. But there are many, many powerful options. Assails with empowered psionics is insane. Assails with void strike going this side is insane. It's got a freaking engine. It's insane. But you must take surge. You must take the blessing surge. Going left-hand side, really going all in on the soul blaze stacks, and then trying to shout multiple times per fight is insane. Like, all these things are very, very strong, but you're still Psyker. You're still gonna just suicide sometimes. You're very vulnerable, and your boss damage is not that great outside of a couple little exceptions. So it's good, but like, it has weaknesses, and it definitely benefits from playing around the team and playing with the team. Is Wall something you could play around? It's absolutely great for like team base. I've done that a couple times. And again, with just a little bit of help, Wall it becomes quite interesting. It's just right now, the problem with Wall is it's like Overwatch Wall. I don't know. Do they show you what the Wall looks like? Let me make one real quick. I'm sorry. Let me just show you. It's like Overwatch Wall. I mean, it's pretty clearly that was the design inspiration, right? But the left-hand side also has a 100% chance of stunning specials, which is a huge extra power. Right-hand side is a dome, so it's got more HP, it's larger, it lasts longer, I think. I can't remember if that's true. Yeah, it lasts a little longer. And it also gives you huge toughness reduction inside and a big toughness damage reduction after. So it's 10% toughness a second for your whole team. It's insane. So this really, the right-hand side is like, hey team, camp here. And left-hand side is more like reactive. I'm going to hold down this exit so entrance so that we can keep special pressure from forcing us out here. The cast is a lot like Sister of the Thorn, like this, meaning that left click rotates it like this. But it has a sidedness to it, right? There's a curvature to it. See? So if you double click it, there's actually a curvature that goes the other way, but usually it's concave out. Actually, they probably should fix that so it's always concave away from you. I don't know why you'd ever want it to be concave this way. It's got great VFX. You can tell from the color that it's dying. As enemies shoot it, let me see if I can get another one real quick. It's got this great special effect. Let's let them shoot it. Hello? Look. The VFX are incredible, and listen, you can hear it. So you can hear it starting to crack and break. The colors there, like, it's amazing. It's really nice in this sense. But the problem is, gunners will always keep shooting the last place you saw them. So if you put this shield right here to cover this spot and you pop out and there's 2-3 gunners looking at you, your shield's just going to get obliterated before it can do anything. And the cast time is a little unforgiving. So right now, like, the short-term cost of casting in the middle of combat is not trivial, and the long-term value is not huge because it gets obliterated. But it's not that many touch-ups away from being really, really interesting. Can you still spam F and spam BB burst? Yes, 100%. You don't even have to spend like your special tier 30 point for it. The BB burst spammer is right there. But it says, again, it says 75, and there's another 50 right here, which makes you think you're going to get the cast time down to 12.5% of the initial time. It's not. There's a fixed amount that's like a whole second that doesn't go down with any of this. So it's pretty... It's much less good than it looks on paper. You have to play it for yourself to see how good it feels. Like, don't let the huge number get you overly excited. Yeah, the bullets dropping down to the insane is insane. Okay. Does Surge work with Trauma's crit circle now? No. No, Surge on Trauma is still auto-delete. Good question. I have to literally alt F4 to change characters right now because I've got some bug with some mod. And I don't know what it is, and I didn't bother to fix it. Because I don't have the source code, so it's not easy to debug it. Can we make Winston Psyker? Yes. Yes, it's definitely that. But it's much more like Orisa Psyker. You should think of it more like Sigma Shield and Orisa Shield. Orisa Shield means camp here. Sigma Shield means I'm going to use it kind of to block off exactly this one thing right now. Let's look at Zealot. I do not have the source code. No. Nobody who was involved on the player side of this was savvy at taking down the source code. Except for maybe Graham. Maybe he did it. I don't know if he ever did. Okay. So weapon balance and such is a moving target. I mentioned earlier that Las Pistol is pretty insane right now, and it is. $2,300 DPS. And then it's quite good. Let's look at the tree. Okay, there are 3 blitzes: throwing knife, stun nade, and fire nade. Fire nade is probably the low tier of the 3. The damage is quite good. There's no question. And there's no question that you'll be able to get value out of it. And if it's appealing to you, try it. But stun nade takes a fight that's absurd and makes it totally winnable. And throwing knife is so freaking fun, it's unbelievable. And it's actually pretty efficient. The right-hand side up here is kind of like finesse stuff, right? Like toughness on dodge, toughness damage reduction on crit hit, free crit chance, which is still at 30%, which is quite good. Melee backstab hit, which is now multiplicative. Melee backstab is not crap anymore. This is still crap, though. So this stuff is like the finesse stuff. And then mixed in here and here, like these are the 2 most important nodes for range damage, which is 25% base damage, like inverse sniper. So therefore infinitely better than sniper's version on veteran. And then 20% damage against infested unyielding, which is like 4/5 of one of the best perks in the game, and then another free perk for free. So these are both really good. This guy, there's Marty stuff I'll talk about later. Let me focus on the finesse stuff because that's what appealed to me. Lyrath 3 Swift is still insane. It's wrong. The description is and always has been wrong. It's free stun immunity for range and melee. So this is like super amazing. All the on dodge proc stuff is actually quite good now because it procs much more frequently because they cleaned up the procs. This is fine. Coming over here, Until Death Holy Revenant is not nearly what it used to be. It only gets you back up to 25% health now. So you can't ride the health roller coaster over and over again. So Zealot is less insane tank than he used to be, but his damage is a lot better than it used to be in most instances. So like here's another 50% weak spot damage on dodge. I'm on knife right now, so I like to meme with knife, and it's fun. It's certainly B tier, maybe even C tier on current balance, but it's fun. Charge, double charge, just standard stuff. You get the attack speed, you get the whatever, the rending basically for free. This is complete garbage. I don't even know it's in the game. You can easily branch over here to get this 10% attack speed on every build. This is every single build will splash this basically. 10% melee attack speed. This is the common impact strength on max hits. I don't know what it's doing here, and it's pretty trash on almost everything, but it's fine, whatever. This is just okay. This is almost never worth the point unless you have a throwaway point, but if you get hit, it knocks back everything in a cone. This is CDR on melee crit. This is very strong, not insanely strong because it's a fixed amount, so it feels very, very good on this guy, which is a 30-second cooldown, and this guy, which is basically kind of a crappier version of Shade Ult, but much less so on this one, because that's a 60-second cooldown, and this is quite good too. The other 2 cooldowns are percentage-based, so they scale much better with Prayer, or whatever it's called now. Of the 3 keystones, the crit keystone is the weakest. You get 15% crit here. This is garbage, never take either of these. This makes it so crit hits stack it. At full stacks, it gets 15. If you take this, it goes up to 25. So at full stacks, you get 25% crit chance for free all the time, but it's your keystone and it's 3 points. This is the up to 30% crit chance when you're spamming melee all the time. This part also works on range. So it also works on your throwing knives and it works on your range slot. So it's got some kind of cool cross synergy between your melee and range if there's a reason to take it. But on average, it's considerably less value than the other 2 options, which I'll talk about. So that's kind of a generic finesse build. Let's watch it in action briefly. No, lateral and down is only where you're allowed to go. Did I crash? Oh, I crashed. Stand by. The crashing has got nothing to do with the game. It's some mod that I have that's causing crashes. I don't know what it is. What do you think the chances are that I don't have enough space for this giant recording I'm doing? 100% probably? I don't know what all this stuff even is. It's all probably garbage. Let's delete it. Eviscerator has been looked at. I don't remember exactly where it was when the snapshot happened. It is a known issue, it is a reported issue, it is an acknowledged issue. Eviscerator is known that it needs work. There's been a huge amount of movement, and there'll be more movement. So yeah, same for Chain X. All these things are known, and some amount of blood, sweat, and tears has gone in. I can't tell you exactly what's going to be in it, and I can't tell you what else eventually, blah, 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 blah. Like the version I'm looking at right now, that you're looking at me with right now, is not the final. There's still just differences between what you're looking at now and what you'll see. So I'm getting those crit stacks. So remember, this is like a B tier build. One option with this guy. Is that? We heard a sniper. Let's get a reload in. You guys can probably guess what the suggested melee weapon is for Zealot. Eee! So you might be asking, what the hell was that? You know, other than my girly voice right there. We got a sniper. Let's go chase him down first. So there are a few interactions between your melee weapon, blessings, and throwing knives. Very few left, but there are a couple. And one of them is uncanny, which gives rending. And this is like the whole reason that I think the finesse build is fun, is uncanny into throwing knives into crushers is hysterical. You're also like, if you critters get lucky like this, you're in one tap territory. I can't remember which build this is. Is this... Wait. Hold on, I gotta check one thing. Let me kill this guy first, though. Oh, ugh! You're not a stem. Ah, my god. Wait, is this... Oh, no. Okay. Well... Hopefully that's something you'll never have to experience. Anyways, you get the idea. So it's a lot like a standard knife build with a couple more toys. Still horrible at Horde. So even on a horrible weapon, you can get a little spam in, you can use your stun to get your stand back. So even on a knife, you can solo a Horde, no problem. You can throw some elites in here, you'll be mostly okay. throw some bulwarks in there. You might have to do some teching, get a barrel, this sort of thing. Anyways, so enough on that. This is probably my favorite build right now, but it's needs a little love. Yeah, the list of changes must be dozens of pages long. Like, it's almost better for you to like look at the things that you're interested in and see if there were changes and then go see how they feel than to try to read the whole patch note and like make any sense of it. There's just no way. Okay, so Zealot Knife needs a little love, but it's certainly fun. Okay, so that's like a standard finesse build if you're going full crit. What is probably literally straight better in most circumstances is coming over here. This cluster is freaking bonkers on everything. It may well be the case that it's always the right answer right now, but of course, fluid, right? 5% melee, that's a pretty reasonable minor node. This is the standard 20% melee damage for smacking things. Like, the degree to which this is better than this is day is denied, right? This is 10% sprint speed, and you always count as dodging even when sprinting, or even without a stamina. Quite solid. This is 20% cooldown on backstabs, which is easier to get than you'd think. Pretty good. This guy is crazy. So just running around gives you stacks of it. When you get up to blank stacks per, like whatever, it lasts every 8 seconds, then it resets itself. If you get 20 stacks, you get 20% attack speed, 20% range attack speed, and 20% attack speed. It's pretty bonkers. And it's got a bunch of dodge-related stuff in it for free that it doesn't even have written here. I wonder, does it still? Question mark? Am I spreading disinformation? Let's see. Okay. Turn around for a second. Yeah. So it's got a really nice buff to dodge speed, dodge range, and a bit of a speed buff to dodge cooldown. So it's got huge buffs to mobility, apparently not included in the patch. No, hopefully it's somewhere else written for you guys. So this node is like this cluster is like all freaking good stuff. It's all such good stuff. Brutal Momentum got reined in a lot, but it's still extremely good on the weapons that have really, really high damage per hit. So this is not the correct way to build this. Going through finesse is not the right way. Let me show what that it looks like in a second, but let me just play this for half a second for you guys. Zealot's corruption, healing, cure wounds. No, it does not. This is Grimmelach's standard weapon pairing. Last Pistol's nice because it's got incredible movement characteristics. Let me see. See if I can warm up on this. I don't play this build very much. Too busy memeing. I think if it's perfectly built, you one-shot. Yeah, you want to attack for me? Oh, come on. Oh, that's right, I don't have... Normally you run this with nade. Will you stop? Irritating. This build's too meta for me. Hey, a patrol. And I don't have... Oh no, it's a patrol and I don't have nade. I don't want to, though. Maybe we'll get lucky and it won't trigger. That's what I get for being lazy and not fixing the build. Oh, this is so bad. Ugh, I'm so bad at this build. I don't want to. All right, let me fix the build. Let me get the right stuff. But yeah, the single target output is still insane. Sup, Fu? So, let's fix this. There'll be different approaches to it. One approach will look kind of like this. You won't see me playing it, but it's probably going to be pretty meta. Stun nade is still the best by a significant chunk. It just does things other things don't. This is great range damage buff, pretty cheap. I'll explain all this health related stuff in a second. Path down through this is the best aura by far. This is likely the best keystone in almost all circumstances. Pick up attack speed, pick up these guys. So this is probably pretty standard. Trying to squeeze one more point to pick this up could be reasonable, but there's not a point to spare. You end up with a lot of wounds and some interesting properties. This does healing back every time you take some health damage, and this gives you 50% damage reduction, right? Health reduction if you'd go over a wound. So these two together makes your health go a lot further than otherwise. Probably won't play this for more than a minute, but just want to give you general sense that you don't need that finesse stuff. You still kill everything. I think one shot of that. And one shot. One shot. Ooh. And this build scales incredibly well with a Psyker on the team, with an Ogryn on the team. Oh shoot, he didn't get his attack off. Oh my god, I'm so bad at this. Ugh, I changed hockey so much a couple weeks ago. Still recovering. Anyways, you can see the damage is quite good. It's quite flexible damage types, plenty of utility, reasonable special sniping, and surprisingly good boss damage. It'll be a mainstay. Oh, get out of here. Boss trigger. Okay, cool. This is cool. Hold on. Ah, shoot. I wanted to show you. Oh no, I don't have an ult. Now I do. I also want you to see how much longer the health lasted. Ooh. Not immortal. You can take massive chunks of damage with one mess up, right? It's particularly into gunners. And your toughness game is not amazing. So let's call it here, and let's switch over. Let me talk briefly about prayer and invis. So, do they? Fu's asking. This is a great question, Fu, and it's gonna keep happening. I keep bringing this question up. It's fine. Is there power creep? In other words, is the game easier than it was? A little bit. I think the answer is a little bit if you go from old meta to new meta. But I think on the plus side, there are tons and tons of new things that are quite fun and strong to play that there's just never been. There's just like so much build space to explore and have fun with. And we can tweak down the outliers. I just wanted to talk briefly about prayer. So prayer, it's not my style, really. I like the in-your-face, keep going, keep going, keep going. But it is incredibly good. It's got boss level stagger. It procs like 6-7 times. Look at this. Every single time it's doing this, it's stunning every mutie. It's stunning bosses. It's giving everybody a toughness over toughness shield. Like, it is incredibly good. And it's only on a 60-second cooldown. And you have 3 sources of cooldown reduction. This one's more of an emergency one. This one easily could take off 15 seconds or 10 to 15 seconds. And this one, depending on your play skill and how you play around it, you might be able to get like 40% cooldown off. All you need to do is 2 backstabs and you're getting 40% cooldown off with this. And the impact per cast on this ultimate is one of the highest in the game, for sure. So playing a team-enabling Zealot built around trying to get and use this at the right time and then maybe get it back again, or just splashing it and then playing a normal Zealot build and then casting it at the right time is going to have a huge ability to influence the team. These two are just okay, not a big deal. Daggers, suppresses, like it's very strong, and the over toughness is quite reasonable. Over here, this is Zealot ult. It's 3-second duration. You can buff it to 6. I would say it's almost never worth taking this guy right here, the extra damage, because it like doubles the cooldown, but it's maybe okay. And with a really good Thunderhammer, you're one-tapping the reduced health bosses and hitting humongous hits into full bosses. Like, and since you can go invis at any time, it's not that hard to set up exactly the right Thunderhammer hit onto normal stuff. Thunderhammer really likes this. It's also, even if you're just taking it normally in some more normal build, like a Combat Axe build, it's nice because you can get a 40% tough replan over time, 20% damage reduction. 20% damage reduction. It doesn't say toughness damage reduction. I never tested that. But if that's actually real damage reduction, like health 2, then this is very strong. And you got a 20% cooldown reduction on kill right here, on backstab kill. So you'll get it back quite frequently. So you'll be able to get insane clutch reses that nobody else could get. You'll be able to do the objective better than anybody else, right? Because you literally can be invis. Like, this is very good. And it's got humongous utility. This is a 2-point wonder. It gives you 20% damage reduction all the time. It's got a nice stun associated with it. It's got all the things you're used to. And it feels fun to play and feels really like, boom, boom, give me the next one, give me the next one. Where this is more of an into combat, out of combat thing. So this has huge strength. But this has got that 20% free attack speed all the time, melee and range, so that's really good. And 50% toughness instantly, which is really good. All 3 of these abilities are extremely good. All 3 of these keystones are solid. This guy is probably the weakest by a chunk. This guy's probably the strongest by a little bit. Martyrdom is incredibly good right now. You can get up to 8 stacks of 8 damage. That's an incredible amount of melee damage. and you can get up to 4 stacks of attack speed, 4% attack speed per stack. So you can get incredible amounts of attack speed. So if you want to play Martyrdom, it's really good. And in some ways, it's better than ever because Holy Revenant won't take you back to 100% no matter what you do anymore, right? So like low HP gaming, as you get grinded out over time, is just going to be a thing. So Marty is extremely good too. And when, what is this called now? Inexorable Judgment gets just a little touchdown, just a little bit, then this is going to be extremely good and going to be the DPS option. This will be reasonable DPS and a little bit of safety because you get all the maneuverability from stuff. And this, when it gets touched up a little bit, so it's no longer like whatever, is going to be more of a specialist build that has places. So I think the tree's in a good place. The auras, might as well be deleted. This looks really good, heal 1.5 corruption, but it's like it's only from the current wound, and like this literally shuts off corruption as a mechanic, so it definitely has a use case for sure. And there's some good stuff in both of these trees. This is incredible. This is really good. This is really nice damage reduction. That's really, really strong. That's horrible. This is, I wish this wasn't behind this because this is pretty cool. 30% impact strength for free is not bad. Like, there's good reasons to think that you'd go through these guys, but this aura is horrible. So it's hard to believe that you go here. Going through this way is basically not getting an aura. So anyways, Zealot's in a really good place. He's very strong. I don't think he's the strongest, but he's very strong. And there's many ways that you can play him and build him, and he'll be good in all of them. Let's look at Ogryn. Let's look at Ogryn. Yeah, Great Hammer Shade. That's basically what it is. It's freaking hilarious. It's very good. It's very good. Do enemies instant retarget to your visible teammates when you invis like they do in Vermintide, or is there a grace period? A grace period. I don't think there's a grace period, and there might be troll potential there. There might be troll potential there. I don't know if anything was ever done about it, but you might be able to conceptualize some troll potential with invis. I'm just saying. Okay. Looking at Ogryn Tree. Can you guys hear me, by the way? I hit a thing. Okay. So all 3 blitzes are pretty reasonably strong. Mega Nade is insane. Like, it'll blow up a huge chunk of elites all at once. Everything. It'll one-shot it. Like, this is like the clutch button. But you only get 1. And Team Nade regen really ain't much of a thing. So this is basically, you take this, and it's completely reasonable, and it's in your back pocket as like the super ult that you need. Rock replenishes, and it's really fun. When the builds were young and muty kills were harder to get, because in live, muty kills, not every build can just murder muties. There's just a few that can do that, right? I felt Rock was really strong, but as things were adjusted, so more things were strong, not just the best things. More things had muty damage. I felt like there was more and more often that I was trying to rock a muty that was basically already dead when I was playing with other people. So it's completely reasonable. And in pubs where players aren't playing maybe quite as well or aware and really focusing out specials, you might even get more value. Bombs fine. Box is fine. I think it blows up more now. I am not an Ogryn specialist by any means, so this is my impression based off of the other ones. I mean, I've had like 450 hours in this client, right? In the beta client. I played a lot. I probably have 25, 30 hours in Ogryn, maybe a bit less in Veteran, and the rest is in Psyker and Zealot. It's definitely a bias on my part. Anyways, Ogryn is very good. So this has always been amazing, and you can get it for free. They did not nerf the damage per hit on heavies for hitting one target or hitting multi-targets, and you can get both of them now. And you can get them whether you go on the melee side of the tree or the range side of the tree. Your toughness game, your sustained toughness game is best in class, for sure. This is an auto pick. This is 15% more damage. It's a multiplicative damage bucket of its own, as far as I recall. And Tyr will correct me. I'm sure he's in chat somewhere if I'm wrong. This is very, very, very high tier. So funny thing is, like, Rock's pretty good, but the fact that it's the only one you can't go and then get this, in and of itself, actually makes Rock a lot worse, if that makes sense, because this is so good that you want this in, like, everything. And this is just okay. So let's talk about the ults. This is a giant taunt, like Barden. It makes many of the gunners come towards you. The shooters come towards you, but basically it only makes them come towards you if they have a mode where they pull out a melee weapon. For the ones that don't have a melee weapon to pull out, this won't make them come towards you. I think it more forces them to shoot at you in particular, but don't quote me on that because I didn't play very much of this. I think it's fine. I wasn't hugely in love. It's got a 45-second cooldown. It doesn't solve problems. It helps other players on your team solve problems, but I didn't think it was tremendously good at that either. I felt like this was the weakest of the three, but again, I want to repeat this, that my Ogryn experience is lower compared to the other two that we've talked about so far, so I feel less authoritative in saying it. And when I was playing in trios and quads, I was playing with really, really, really competent players that didn't really need help doing their own job. They just needed me to do my job, right? And if I'm doing this, I'm not doing something extra. I'm helping someone else do something extra. So I felt like that extra enabling of teammate wasn't really adding as much value as maybe it would have in some circumstances. Charge is bonkers good. You still get the 25% attack speed and move speed after charge for 5 seconds. You get long charge for free. You don't need a point. Like, if freaking Crack was in the chat, like, he's going to be so excited. Like, charge is so good, right? Okay. You get the 10% tough replen per hit as a node. This is okay. It's fine. I mean, it's definitely good. There's times you want it. But his toughness game is so freaking good that this isn't always that big of a deal. But you get 5 bleed stacks, and bleed got buffed like a lot. It actually kills hordes now, for example, both kinds of hordes. It does real boss damage. It does damage against everything. The only thing it doesn't really do damage against is Carapace unless you have enough rending. Or you could get this, which increases your base damage, by 1% up to 25%, which is pretty good if you're going for more of a melee bruiser. If more of your damage is coming from your heavy attacks. So if you're playing like a club, this is quite good. Speaking of which, this is quite good if you're going for a club. Full charge will give an extra 40% damage too. So if you're on a club with this guy, you got this guy procced, you got all the heavy attack stuff, we're talking like one-shotting Ogryns, right? Like, if you want to play bonk Ogryn, it's good. There's enough heavy attack special stuff there that just makes it really good. 6 stacks of bleed on heavy attack is insane. There's no world that there should be 6 stacks on. And with like shield, it is just out of this world how much damage you do with this. If you go for this guy, you can't get this guy. This ability really does amp up your range stuff a lot. I'll talk about it in a minute, but it's mutually exclusive with this guy, which I think is a good decision. You either going to do some crazy range damage or some crazy melee, and the other one's going to be a bit of a helper. Let's go back and talk about this ult. Swaps to and reloads. So it's got a lot of that same value that Veteran does from his ult on the slower to swap to weapons. That's a big deal. Free reload, big deal. 1 extra reload at 70% reload speed, pretty big deal. Some free toughness on shots fired and reload, not a huge deal, not bad. 3 stacks of burn per hit, and this works with the pew 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 weapons. This is insane. It is completely bonkers. Rending is really, really, really good now. It makes things that don't do very much damage do a lot more damage because it's additive now. So if, let's say, your attack does like 10% of its base damage to an armor type, This will make it do 40% of its base damage. Range fall off, this helps there. Explosion fall off, this helps there. Rending is very, very, very strong right now. This makes the little nade launcher very good. This is very good. This is okay. My guess is there's probably no build that takes this. There's probably no build that takes this and goes all the way to here and then takes this. That's my guess. But again, I haven't played the shit out of Ogryn, so I can't be 100%. Hitting 5 or more melee enemies gives you, a single attack gives you 25% reload. That's great. A little bit of free ammo. That's great. 20% damage to suppressed enemies. That's great. That's going to work on a lot of things a lot of the time. This aura is horrible. Toughness replen is been completely power crept out of the game, and as a mechanic has almost no purpose left in the game. And I don't know. I feel like that feedback hasn't quite gotten through. So this is garbage. But this is fine. This is pretty garbage on most builds. It depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a heavy attack spam build, it's 10% heavy attack melee damage. That ain't bad, right? This is probably the best of the three, but it's not that great in everything, and it's not worth going out of your way from, and you don't have to feel sad if you're going this way and picking it up. Okay, let's talk about these clusters into these keystones. This is the heavy attack spam, but it turns out to be good on lots of things. Right? This is damage reduction, and it's... Okay, let me before I summarize. And this is Lucky Bullet. It's for people who really want to spam their range weapons, or for people who are on the pew 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 weapons in particular. It's probably not that great relatively. The meta builds are probably either going through this guy down to this guy, or through this guy down to this guy. Ripper 5 is still incredible, but you can get away with the other range weapons, especially the pew pew pews, especially if you're going to do a build like this guy with this guy, because this is that free reload. This is insane number of burn stacks per hit. Like, if you want to play the spam, it's completely reasonable. It's very strong with the stubbers now. Like, it's delete whole rooms stubber strong. So, okay, so what's this do? It's a % chance of triggering. When it triggers, it doesn't consume an ammo, so you get to keep firing without having to reload. So that's pretty good. Like, the more downtime your weapon has, the more value this has. This is up to 8%. That's just free value. 200% ability cooldown reduction. So a lot of people have misconceptions about ability cooldown reduction, especially on curios. It's not cooldown reduction. It doesn't instantly give it to you back or reduce the amount of time you have to charge to. Instead, it's every 1 second. If you have 200% ability cooldown, you get 3 seconds worth of cooldown progress. So if this procs 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row, it's just refreshing the duration. It's not adding extra. But the proc rate of this is low enough. The only people who are getting this up constantly would be people who are the pew 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 builds, right? And this is okay. This is a guaranteed lucky bullet as a crit chance, which is pretty good if you're using the when you get a crit, it reloads a bullet or whatever the heck it is, right? So this is all. I feel like this side of this is very much conceptualized around stubbers, and then maybe generalized a bit from there. So if you want to play stubber based play, like if you like stubber, you should be so freaking excited right now for just going right into right. Super cool. Middle, it's 10% stacks of 25% damage reduction and 25% toughness reduction, and those stack. And every time you push, you get a stack back, or it's a cooldown to stack gets back. It's very easy to get your stacks back. When it procs, like if you lose all your stacks really quickly, like a gunner's mowing you down, there's an AoE stun like Barden, which isn't a huge stun, but you get toughness back right away. So it's like a panic button, and this is extra toughness replen per sec. Like, this is probably not worth taking, but whatever. I had a point. So I think with shield in particular, there's an argument for taking this, and that might be end list. That might be end list. But shield's really, really, really in a good place right now. Like, shield is amazing right now. So there's reasons to take this. This is the generic good stuff. On heavy attacks, you get 5% damage, 7.5 seconds, and it stacks 5 times. That says damage. It does not say melee damage. It doesn't say heavy attack damage. It says damage. So this works on your range and your melee. And yeah, so this is just like generic good. This is 10% attack speed for free, and 10% attack speed is an amazing buff. Like, attack speed is so strong as a buff. It still doesn't say melee. I'm pretty sure that works on range too. And this is every single time while heavy hitters at 5 stacks. Toughness replan for melee kills is up by 10%. So from 5 to 15% or something like this. So that's pretty good. It's not so necessary. It depends. If you're doing heavy attack spam, you're getting incredible toughness regen right here. If you're doing light attack spam, then this is your tough regen. This is your tough replan in addition to your blessings. So if you're doing like kind of a standard like Ripper 5, Knife 3, or Knife 6 or whatever, then you want this. Like this stuff is all good stuff. And then this last one is light attacks to refresh the duration. So you don't even have to heavy attack spam once you get it up. So this is generic good stuff. This is some pretty, like, you will notice when you're using this, you will notice that you don't die, like that you don't take chip damage. This is by no means horrible. This is quite good. This is generic good stuff that's aggressive. This is generic good stuff that's bad, defensive in nature, and this is mostly for particularly for pew pew pew. Rumbler, you want any source of rending. You want this Rumbler, you want 30% rending here, and you want the rending right here. Rending is insane. Like if you take this guy and you kill an elite, you're doing like hundreds, if not like up to like 1,000 damage on off target. Like it's completely transformative for the weapon. Rending is completely transformative for explosions because of the way the mechanics work. It's like quadrupling, tripling, quadrupling the AoE damage on it. Okay, so let's look at the other nodes. So if you're going more melee centric, this buy is absolutely insane. It is super S tier. This is fine if you're doing heavy attack spam. This stuff is just okay. This is absolutely insane. 30% running on elite kill. This is at super S tier. This is very, very, very strong if you're on this. Otherwise, it's not very good. Like if you're trying to go from here down to here, this is just okay. But this is so good, you go this way anyways. This is just 10% damage reduction. By the way, Ogryn just generically gets higher toughness damage reduction from his base nodes for whatever reason. This is just fine. 15% damage reduction in charging melees, another 5% heavy attack node. So all these minors are just whatever. So the big standout right here is this guy. This guy is super S tier. We're splashing. Okay. This is just a meme from my shield build. This is pushing or blocking taunts. Yes, you can literally sit there and hold block on shield and taunt things from a distance. It's pretty funny. The gunners was like, the shooters will start running towards you with big red eyes or whatever. It's pretty hilarious. But like, it's a bit of a meme because somebody else will have just killed it in the same amount of time. This is okay. 20% damage after being hit's fine. But the right-hand side is much better. On combat ability, everybody gets 20% move speed and immune to stuns and suppression for 4 seconds. That's just fine. I mean, you'll marginally get value. This is probably more like a B tier, maybe even low B. But it's fine because you want this, which is 5% combat ability on elite kill and coherency. You don't have to get it. It just has to happen within coherency. And it's elite kill, not specialist. And elite kills happen probably like 4 or 5 times more often, I think, than specialist. At least it feels like it. Though with all the special spam on some of these modifiers, maybe I'm wrong. Down here, this is bad. This is like a joke. This is like a joke. And this is pretty bad too. 20% damage reduction for each knockdown or incapacitated. But of the two, this one like might actually matter ever. And this one's a joke. So you take this one. And then all this stuff's pretty reasonable. This one's probably the weakest of them. And the right-hand side, it's just good stuff. Coherency radius is fine. It means little things like this happen more frequently, which is nice. Explosion radius is fine. It's nice if you're on Rumbler. Because you take this, you take this, you take this, and you're happy. Right-hand side, 20% main move speed on ranged hit. This is quite reasonable. 1% crit chance. You only really want this if you're on the pew 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 weapon to get the free attacks per pew, which is fine. Bad. This is fine. So again, you're only going this deep if you're on the pure pew 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 probably, right? In which case, this is all fine. So anyways, why is Ogryn so incredible right now? He's got so much innate damage reduction, like everywhere. His toughness game is next, bar none, best. And his damage is great all over the board. So... yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's not like, it's not going to make me have... the way I think about it is S tier is build defining. A tier is I'm happy to go a bit out of my way for it if it works for my build, and more often than not I am. B tier is, I'm happy if I get to path through it, but I'm not going to go out of my way for it. But maybe I'd pick it up if I had 1 or 2 points left at the end of my build. And C tier is, I really wish this was literally like, if this were 15 toughness as opposed to what it is right now, I'd be jumping for joy. Like, I might as well not have even taken this. So it's definitely not C tier. It's B. 1 shot, right? He'll die to bleed. Let's watch this damage. Whoops. That's 1 hit. Ugh. So you lose the stacks if they do health damage. So you can still do things like this, right? It's not bad. So I'm kind of in an annoying place where I have to trigger those gunners and there's a witch, so I can't really charge them. And I also don't want to charge around the corner because there's a boss trigger, so I kind of just have to sit here and wait. I have no idea how things are going to play in lower difficulty. On shield, at least, you want to swap to your range weapon to go from A to B because the stam cost of sprinting is so high. Here, look. Look stacks. Look, 8, 9, 10 full stacks. Sorry, this is so boring. I should have put on fast forward. Fine. Let's hope we don't get a boss. If I was playing to win, I would never do this. Let's watch his damage. See that real red? That means he is, there it is, taunted. See if I can get a couple free kills and some gunners at the start of this fight. Nah, they're gonna run from me. So it was a bad play. How much did I pay for my bad play? Not much, to be honest. So that's the on charge giving my toughness back. So 100% instantly. Every single time I get hit, let's take a hit or two. Instant full tough, basically. So that's what I'm talking about. Because people will like be like, I think the defensive stuff is actually really strong. And it's probably not the meta. The meta is probably going to be like knife, Ripper 5, but it's completely possible that some of these range weapon builds are going to be really strong. I feel like I should rename my Ogryn Twinkle Toes. Here, homage. he's not gonna fire anymore. Never mind. Boss trigger? Other one's right there. One shot. One shot. Oh, I fucked up. Should be one shot though. So let's just block for a second. Here, look. See? See they came for me? It's pretty dope. Like, the shield has so much more utility with, like, weapon special and stuff. Like, I'm not even close to min-maxing it. Yeah, there's our boss. Let's kill this stuff real quick, though. Boss is almost here, finally. We got a slug coming. Oh, come on. One shot. Let's get our bleed stacks. Yeah, I fucked that up. Hopefully we can dodge this. I ult F4 if he hits me. Fine. Oh, I got the rate. Oh no, I hit the barrel. Never mind. I suck. Let's reposition a little. Remember to swap for running. Nice. This will help. We got a big ammo above. We got tons of ammo. Let's see if we can get this to gum the work up. Nice. Please he doesn't. Ah, he tapped me. Unlucky. Which of course I mean played terribly. Let's see if we can slide into this. Get out of here. Nice boss damage from range. So it's basically the complete package. It's just very strong. Plus it's actually pretty fun to play for a tank. Nice. Get donked, idiot. Wish I'd better this weapon. Making my toughness back. See if I can get this right. Try not to hit this barrel. Yeah, the slip and slides in, I think. It's fun. So if I had rock right now, I could donk on him, right? Get out of here, nerd. Oh no! Oh, it's crap. Like, that's not good, but it's not bad. So anyways, my point is that there's definitely space for shield. Your standard knife into Ripper is going to be very good. Ripper into G, or knife into GG, knife into Rumbler is going to be good. Let's see which one we get. Nope, we got this one. That's Gunners. Gotta kill them first. You get all your stamina back instantly if you get hit when you have less than half toughness. So you get all of it back anyways. So you're like, oh no, I have no toughness game. Oh, I got hit. Oh, there's all my toughness. What? Ogryn doesn't care if he gets hit. Sweet. I haven't tried this. I think this is a tech. Now let's try the easy way. Why are there no ads? What is going on? Is this build broken? Oh, there they are. Get out of here. See if we can pull this off. Nice. Easy. I think we'll call it here. Boop. Hello, hello. All right. I am mostly out of time, folks. I will just say in passing that there's a tremendous amount of build space available on Ogryn, and by no means, if you took the impression that there's like just a couple things, there's definitely tons of things that are playable here, just like on Zealot and Psyker. I have very little time to talk vet, and it might not be worth rushing because I might say something other than how I totally feel, but I'm going to give you my relatively unvarnished opinion. So let me just pull up the skill tree on it. The intent was to have 3 kind of generic options, like a supporty merc witch hunter captain type 1, right? And then one that was kind of invis, a little more selfish, a little more melee and aggressive. And then the last one, which is an iteration of where veteran is currently. Of the 3, I think that the sharpshooter type is very, very strong with a couple options, reasonably strong with a couple options. And I feel like the more generic versions of this, oh, this looks very different than I expected it to, are just okay. Big picture, smoke grenade is kind of the utility nade, and it's the hardest to get value out of utility nade out of just like murder all the things, because this does 6 stacks of bleed, which if you saw, bleed's been buffed like crazy. So this is extremely strong. And this one-shots bulwarks and one-shots crushers. So it's darn strong. And if they're stacked on top of each other, you can get multi-kills. So these are quite good. This has got potential, but it's harder to get value. In the aura department, you still got your ammo. You still got your ammo on kill, but it doesn't work quite the same way anymore. It doesn't just round up every time. Instead, it keeps track of fractional percents of an ammo. So you'll get 1% of your ammo per kill on average, not 1% rounded up. So it's not as extremely good on things like revolver anymore. It's a little more averaged out. This is just fine. 3% damage is just like, okay, this is not very good. And 5% move speed for your whole team is very good, but it's on the right-hand side of the tree, which in general is up here, is the worst portion of the tree. This is your standard ult. This is a shout that gives over toughness and a pretty decent stagger with a reasonable cooldown of 45 seconds. That can be spec'd to do a pickup of all your teammates in radius, which is quite strong, but you're sacrificing a lot of aggressive potential to take this. So this is okay. But if you're taking this, you got to be getting a lot of aggressive potential somewhere else in your build. And this is your invis, which has got a 60-second cooldown, and I think is bad. All of these things are pretty generic. Like, you can get one charge, but it makes the 60-second cooldown even longer. It's got very little aggressive potential. It's got like a suppression wave around it when it comes out, which isn't terrible. But it's 60-second cooldown. And who the heck are you diving on veteran? You're made of paper. So this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So it's okay. There might be some place where you take this and you take the 90% threat reduction, and then basically you bait your teammates. But I play so much solo and duo and maybe a little trio that this kind of playstyle doesn't make any sense to me, because it's just like, who am I going to shift the aggression onto, right? So this could be something where I have a distorted perspective that taking this into this and then baiting your teammates and power swording, because power sword still does incredible damage. It's just is unsafe to use as it's ever been. It's always been bait. It's always been, I want to be, I want a lightsaber, but now I'm made out of paper. Now you're a glass man. So maybe there's something here. Or maybe just a few touch-ups to this and suddenly this gets here. Short term, my perspective is on average, this isn't huge value. This is great value, but again, you're giving up a lot of aggressive potential. This is your standard ult with all the good stuff and the mark refreshes and all of that, and it's as good as it's ever been. Big stuff on the trees down here. This is insane value city in this chunk. You'll almost always take this. 15% rending is money. 50% toughness reduction if you're above 75% toughness is money. This is confirmed kill, which is just as good as it was in live. 25% elite kill or specialist, 25% over 10 seconds, which is S tier. Amazing. 6-second cooldown on specialist kill is fine. 25% Ogryns, 10% elite is money. This is all money. The big standout new guy is this one, which is a free shot on las hits. and this is 50% no kidding power on weak spot hits for 10 seconds after. So Revolver with crit build is very good. Hellbores with this are pretty insane. You like never have to reload. There's a lot of potential for being like a hide behind your teammates in pew 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 builds. Right hand side, a lot of good stuff. Duck dive, 25% crit chance, 10% melee crit chance, 15% attack speed on melee. This is all reasonably great stuff. It's very fair, where a lot of the other builds are really unfair. They're very strong. So I feel like there's a lot of potential for the future of mid-range veteran, and if it's what you want to play, there's more than enough toys there for you to have fun with it. Does this still have... Okay, if this goes live with Onslaught, it's really, 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 really good. So you can play this guy and play an auto gun and just spam and kill things. So never mind, I didn't realize this was still in the game. This is insane. Is the other one still in the game too? And this is insane. So crit hit spamming with this guy and this guy absolutely melt. So you can also do that build. And on that note, I got a dip. DM me in Discord, everybody. I got a dip. Who should I raid real quick?